Welcome to the Colorado Real Estate Leaders Podcast, brought to you by Trailstone Insurance Group, bringing you interviews with Colorado's best real estate and mortgage professionals, empowering you to understand the current trends in the housing market so you can make the American dream your reality. Enjoy today's episode.
Well, it's a great day in Colorado, and welcome to the Colorado Real Estate Leaders Podcast. Today we have with us Brett Baird, who's a producing sales manager with CrossCountry Mortgage. Brett, welcome to the program.
How are you, Mike?
Hey, we're doing great, and I want to find out all about what you do, how you do it, and why you do it. But get us started with what's your background, what got you into the mortgage industry, and then we'll talk about being a sales manager and a producing sales manager, because that means that you walk your talk and actually have to do stuff that you tell your team to do as well. So what's your background?
Yeah, so great question. It must have been, it'll be 20 years here in June. So I was living abroad. I was living in Spain, southern Spain. I was in Seville. And I had a buddy who kept coming to visit me, and I'm like, what are you selling? Like, what are you doing? How are you affording this lifestyle? Like, what are you doing in Sevilla for the third time this year? And he's like, I'm selling mortgages. I'm like, I don't know what that is, but I'd surely like to find out. Right. So I end up coming back to Denver, and I think, within the first week, I get hired on at a local company, a couple really, really great leaders back in the day. And we were kids. It was a little boiler room-esque, right? It was a bunch of young guys from like 24 Hour Fitness, and then me hot up the press from Spain, and just a hodgepodge of mostly young guys. And the leadership told us way back in the day. This was during like the first refi boom. When rates went from 8 to 5 and 6 and so on and so forth. And they told us to have an intense focus on realtor relationships. So as people were hunting refis and so on and so forth, I was cold calling realtors, and I've always been pretty good on the phone. And so I'd get in front of these realtors, and most of them are, at that point I'm 21 years old, and they're 40-something-year-old guys, and they're all like, you're great on the phones, but you're a child. You're a kid.
Just stay behind the phone.
Yeah, just stay behind the phone. They're like, I would love to work with you, but our clients are older. They're pretty sophisticated. We're not going to be a fit at this time, so on and so forth. And I kept calling. And it was frustrating after 30 meetings and very little traction and months and so on and so forth. And I was actually over. I was on Federal, having John and my sorrows in a plate of tacos, and I saw on this little newsstand, Casas Magazine, which is a local publication here, and I started thumbing through it, and I'm like, this is a bunch of guys my age, like all these Hispanic guys. It's all in Spanish and so on and so forth. So I started calling on those gentlemen, and all, like 90% of them were like, yeah, because this was back in the day when there was no licensing, right? People were charging exorbitant fees and yada, yada, yada. So these guys were really willing to meet with me, just based on the fact they're like, hold on, you speak Spanish like this, and you're a white dude from Denver? Like, what is going on here?
White elephant.
You're not gonna, yeah, exactly. Like, you're not gonna, do a disservice to my clients and then, head back to wherever you came from and just, make off with like a bandit, right? And I'm like, no, man, like my mom lives here. I'm from here. So I met with a bunch of these guys and started doing some business with them. And one of them eventually was a pretty big realtor, and we're still friends to this day. And one of my dear friends, Tony Martinez, and so he kind of gave me my first shot at a bigger account. Was successful there, and I'm like, well, why don't I just do this? Like, why don't I build a niche in the Spanish community? There weren't, there's a lot more loan officers on that side of the ball these days. But that's what I've done for 20 years. So that kind of got me my start, which then led to, working with some of the biggest agents in town, helping grow agents. I was professionally coached in their core coaching for 10 years. Now I'm professionally coached by Ben Newman, who's, he's a mindset coach for Alabama football and K-State. The Dolphins, and one loan officer in Denver, Colorado, if you can believe it.
Rare right here.
Yeah. So that's kind of how I got my start, and it blossomed into me growing a pretty big team. I think at the height of things last year, I had two teams. I had a new build team that was specifically for one large national builder that was about 40 people, and then I think my personal team at the height was probably about 30 people. Um, and so, I've worn many hats, and production's always been my number one thing, right? If I'm not in the thick of it and producing as much or more than anyone on my team, then I could probably be learning something from them.
Yeah. I think
Yeah.
that's so cool that you kept on getting told no. That's the ultimate, sales, mantra is, keep on keeping on. But then you found a little shiny object. It's like, hey, here's something that we can relate. My upbringing or my time in Spain, my Spanish speaking, and you started dialing in there. I think that is awesome, and then started building and building from there. Reminded me of something you might appreciate this with languages, and I don't speak any other language, so this is something that I just remember from way back in the day. Do you realize that mortgage, the name mortgage, has a Latin derivative, which means what?
That's a good question. To borrow with interest?
Well, okay, I'll give you partial. I'll give you partial credit. It means, believe it or not, death grip.
Ooh.
Oh, wow.
Isn't that interesting?
Super interesting.
And so now I'm confident just hearing you speak like this. You are a teacher, motivator, you're an educator. So now with this knowledge of, hey, I help my clients get into a mortgage to buy the American dream, but I don't want it to be a death grip. So let me give you this extra knowledge. Let's make sure that you're buying right. You're picking the right, program, all of that kind of thing. So I think that is a really neat thing. So talk a little bit about how you work with your borrowers and your clients to help them make the right decisions.
Yeah, a lot of my clients are pretty old school. We're traditionally belly to belly. I still like to see a lot of people in person. It doesn't always have to happen that way, but my team, they handle 90% of it. They're amazing. I think my average person has been with me 8 years, which is telling. And even in this market, um, on my personal team, I haven't laid anyone off.
Wow.
Which I think that I might be the only team in Colorado that could say that, right?
That's
that had
awesome.
a scaled out team.
Yeah.
I let someone go, but I haven't laid anyone off. So I was heavily coached. I am heavily coached, and I give my team as much of that as I can, just as far as customer service, going the extra mile. How would you want to be treated? When was the last time you bought a property, and how anxious were you? Right? Do you have a family member? Like, just really, really, we need to be in the empathy business these days. Because it's tough out there, right? Whether the numbers reflect it or not, I think it's pretty black and white that the economy is not in the best place ever. So people are more conscientious of how they spend their dollars and how they spend their time, right? Which is all super important stuff. I think the latter more than the interior, and who you're spending your time with, right? So I treat it like a family, and sometimes dysfunctional, and most of the time works like a Swiss watch. But being in the people business is paramount. Really digging in, knowing everything about my team, because then I can guide them down, one of the million of mistakes, or down a path that would help them evade the mistakes that I've made over 20 years in the business. When we got into the business, there was no me, right? There was no Gavin Ekstrom or all these big guys out there. There was a few guys that would do like $1 million a month, and I looked at that like it was something that was crazy, and like, how do these guys do it? And now it's a lot of it's about passing the torch now, and having I've done well. I'm super fortunate. I've got to learn a lot, and now it's like, all right, let's instill these beliefs in these younger people that I'm bringing up, who, like I said, I'm fortunate enough to have worked with me for almost a decade on average now. And it's time for them to win. And if they want to build teams, like, I'll help them do that, and so on and so forth. But all this gets conveyed in a very particular way to the client. And like I said, it's usually face to face. It's usually belly to belly. We like to give options. We like to walk them through the whole process. And if you love us, great. And if you don't, that's fine. We're not gonna push you into something that either you don't want or can't afford. It's like I said, it's the empathy game these days, and staying the course. We spoke about this just briefly earlier. Discipline and the market in general, and so many people in the industry, as many realtors as lenders, it's probably about 50-50 at this point. People just quitting on themselves. People
Sure.
day by day silently quitting on themselves. And one day they're going to go get a different job and say, well, I did my best. And it's my job, especially for my realtor partners and guys that work for me, and these young gals that work for me, and so on and so forth, to really push them, be like, did you really do your damn best? Can you look in the mirror at the end of the day and say, I pushed myself 100%, like I'm confident in what I did, and that's it. And it's not about, I love goals, right? I love long-term. I have 1 year, 3 year, 5 year. Someday I do them every year with my team. I love that stuff. But right now, it's more just about stacking days. Like, what did you do today? What are you going to do tomorrow to be a little bit better? What are you going to do the day after that? It's one day at a time. And it's really intentional focus. And we don't just need to think about how bad this year was, right? Let's think about, what are the top few things that went well, and what good stuff am I going to take with me into 2023? That's what I'm drilling in on all of my people, and those that surround me. And and it took me to become a super tremendously regimented, disciplined person, which I haven't always been. Tia's on the program. She's known me for a month full of Sundays, and she can attest to that. And if it takes me, yes, good, very good. So if it takes me getting up at 4:30, and I just completed the 75 hard for the second time this year, and I work out twice a day. I don't put any trash in my body. I haven't drank in 92 days. Right now, you can talk about it or you can be about it, wow. Right? But there's nowhere really in the middle. So if I need to be about it 1,000% to show other people that they can, and be the most strict regimented guy in Denver, then awesome. Because if I am, I can hold them to a higher standard, right? It would, like, I would never hire a gigantic personal trainer. I want a guy that's more ripped than me. I want someone I can emulate, right? I can't, a story, not a lot of people, this might not shed the best light, but last year or earlier this year, I'm a car guy, and I purchased I built a Lamborghini last year, and I bought this car, right? I bought a Lamborghini, nice. And it's something that's always been bucket list for me, and so on and so forth. And when the tides turned, I'm sitting there in meetings with my team, and I'm telling them to cut Comcast, right, and to look for cheaper insurance and to save money here and there. We're talking about, like, literally, let's each come up with 3 ways that we can personally save money. And lo and behold, I'm driving around in a Grigio Telesto colored Lamborghini. And you really got to think about what kind of example that sets. So as an example, and like I said, I can't ask anyone to do stuff that I'm not doing. I sold the car, right? It was my dream car. I had it for 6 months. I mean, I did, I got my money out and probably made a little on it, but it wasn't about that. It was about, like, hey, if I can do this with something that's been iconic for me, that I had a poster of when I was a 6-year-old boy on my wall, like, we all can get through this together, right? And there's always another run. We know that there's going to be another run. So we need to hunker down and be mindful and take care of each other and take care of our families and people around us, and just strive to be slightly better every day, right?
Well, that was a masterclass right there.
I appreciate that.
I mean, for real, that, you used the word empathy several times, and just today we were talking to people, someone about empathy and, treating people real and authentic. And we've all heard the, B2B and B2C, but really it's H to H, human to human. Humans need to be felt like we empathize, understand, and treat them just like humans. And it's any kind of business, any kind of, relationship, but we're in the relationship business, building relationships. Yeah, mortgage. Yeah, real estate, or whatever widget that we're doing. We just need to be there for people. And I think that's a big thing. And that's what, you've expressed there, being disciplined. Boy, if you're working out twice or getting up at this and doing it, all of those things mean, wow, if someone's listening to this, I'll bet you, my file is going to be taken care of quite well by Brett and his team because he is diligent.
Well, there's no excuses, right? If I'm so hard on myself that I've removed all of the excuses, at least 99% of them from my life, then I can hold people more accountable and make sure everything's running as efficiently as it can. And especially, and this is, I keep talking more about industry people, for all the lenders out there and people that are struggling right now, me living like this and being this regimented, it's crazy what it attracts. I mean, in the last month, I probably had 5 realtors or groups of realtors reach out, just like, "Hey, will you personally coach me? Like, what will it take?" And for me, well, that's the price is free. I'd like your business, right? It's pretty much a no-brainer. But it's crazy if you just do it the right way and you have narrow focus and just do one thing a little bit better all the time. Eventually, people start to notice that stuff. Like I said, with the working out, and I'm down 30 pounds, I'm training for a marathon, and my clothes fit right, and I feel pretty good about stuff. December is going to be that people it's law of attraction. People gravitate towards that. December will be my strongest month this year, which is crazy, right? In this market, and with everything that's going on, we're still going to help like 25 families, which is staggering for what's going on out there right now, right? There's less volume, less transactions happening now than there were in 2008. But it's also a testament. A lot of these are repeat clients and referrals from realtors that we're not in the mortgage business. We're in the people business, and we're going to take the absolute best care of the customer and the client that's possible. And, I spoke about this before. And, we really need to identify who our clients are, right? If it's not right at home, it's not right in the office. If it's not right in the office, it's not going to be right with the client or the customer. So my number 1 client, Eunice, that's my girl. My number 2 client's my team. My number 3 client's the client. Like it has to go in that order. And it doesn't mean that the clients are number 3 and they get treated less favorably. It just means that we have to be really intentional and dialed in everything we're doing and treating the team right. So then the team then treats the client right, and so on and so forth. It's the people business at the end of the day, right?
Excellent. Well, I'll tell you what, it's been, like I said, I didn't use that word lightly, masterclass. I mean, these are just some great principles that we should all be really using ourselves personally and professionally. So really appreciate your contribution, Brett. If someone's listening to this going, "Hey, I want a little bit of that, in my life, I want to learn about what Brett and his team can do for me," what's the best way they can learn more and then reach out and connect with you?
Yeah, pretty simple. Probably the easiest way is just to text me directly. It's 303-548-7334, 303-548-7334. Or you can email me at brett.baird@ccmcharliecharliemary.com.
Excellent. Well, Brett, thank you so much for coming on today. It was a real pleasure talking with you.
We appreciate you. Thanks so much, guys.
Thank you for listening to the Colorado Real Estate Leaders Podcast, brought to you by Trailstone Insurance Group. To learn more about the topics mentioned on today's show or listen to past episodes, visit www.coloradorealestateleaders.com.